Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super discussion video. Also, a little bit more of a theory video. Today, I have with me Carthu's dojo. He's going to come and tell you guys something he came up with when we were just discussing this before we started recording that it has my jaw on the ground, guys. Oh my gosh, you're going to want to stay for that discussion. But we have a little bit more to talk before we get to that. Why don't you say hello to everyone listening, man?
Hello, everyone. I'm Carthu, and I just did this with Diamond in our recording, the same intro. I do it every time. Hey guys, it's me, Carthu from Carthu's Dojo. What's up?
What's up, man? All right, so you guys saw the title, you saw the thumbnail. Today we're going to be talking very briefly about whether or not Dragon Ball Super Broly should have somewhat of a cliffhanger. Now, I've seen this come up in a lot of different comments, and just the general community idea is that, yes, this movie needs a bit of a cliffhanger because this is going to be the thing that sets up the future of Dragon Ball. I've said it before, I think after the Tournament of Power, after everything involving Dragon Ball Super, the Dragon Room, Toriyama, Toritaro want to take a little bit of time out of their hands in order to really shore up what the future of the series is going to be. And after this, I think whatever happens at the end of this movie is going to give us an idea of the next direction, whether it's a new anime, a new movie, manga coming out every single week like back in the old days. We're not exactly sure here, but this is the perfect opportunity to do it, especially if you're going to be reintroducing the Saiyans, reinterpreting the mythology of the Saiyans and the history there, and everything surrounding Broly, Paragus, and even Frieza, and everything else like that. So before we get into what your thoughts on this are, man, like, what are your thoughts on everything I just said? Do you think that this is a perfect reset button for the series?
Absolutely. The way that Toei has been framing this movie, the animation especially shows this rekindling of the spirit of Dragon Ball, what it means to be a Dragon Ball anime, what it means to be, just the series in general, taking it in a new direction, modernizing it and really pushing it to its new thresholds. And they even say this in an interview, this was the perfect time for them to restart everything. They've said it multiple times, actually, that this is why they wanted to do this movie, because it was a perfect way to hit the reset button on a lot of things they did wrong with Super. I mean, of course, one of the main things was its schedule, which was terrible, which not only hurt the animation, as most people saw, but it hurt the writing team. The writing team still had to write episodes way ahead of time. Just, way ahead of time relative to us, not way ahead of time relative to anime writing schedules. And especially with Toriyama's limited notes, it really doesn't give you that much to work with. So they had to build episodes. And I think the Tournament of Power actually shows this the best, is that they have struggles like interlacing concepts and episodes using that time frame. But now with this, Toriyama's increased involvement specifically on this movie, potentially in the future until he, retires from it, as we discussed before this recording. It really does seem like there's going to be a solid foundation for Dragon Ball, whether it is, like you said, movies, manga, anime. It's going to have a solid foundation to work off of that's being set right here and right now.
Yeah, and that's why I really think that this movie has to, unlike almost every single other Dragon Ball movie before it, end in a bit of a cliffhanger that makes us believe that there's still a lot of story to explore here, even if it does have, a typical nice, relaxing, even comedic ending like most other movies in the franchise have had. And, like the biggest example I would have here is that the ending of the ending of the Battle of Gods movie really kind of opened up the door. It kicked the door off its hinges, really, about what Dragon Ball could be, the concept of the multiverse, of all these god tiers that we hadn't even ever explored before, and everything that movie gave to us. Just then going into Fakatsu no F, the story of Frieza coming back and getting this power of a god super quickly, it didn't mesh well, and it's not the story a lot of people wanted. I remember a lot of people thinking, okay, after this movie, whoever they're going to wish back, or for whatever reason, it's going to be directly tied to Battle of Gods. There's going to be a mention or a huge involvement from a god of destruction, maybe even another multiverse thing. And even a lot of people back then were like, oh, what if it's Broly and they're going to reintroduce Broly as a a god of destruction in some universe, or even an old god of destruction from the Saiyans, and that would help explain what the Saiyans are. There's a lot of weird coincidences from what fans wanted back then to what we're kind of getting now. And that's what kind of brings us to this idea of cliffhanger ending for this movie. When you have a character like Broly in Dragon Ball doesn't have, as I said in the last couple of videos, a lot of characters that it can really hinge on, that it can sell out theaters and just hype up the entirety of the franchise with. You probably have Trunks, Frieza, Broly, and Bardock. And Broly's probably the biggest of all, but Dragon Ball Super already hyped up Frieza. They already hyped up Trunks. This movie might bring back Bardock, but we're going to get Broly in a major way in this film. And it seems like a little bit of a rush and a little bit of a waste to kill his character off in this movie. You need to attach him to the future of the series, and you need to set up an arc and a story that would involve his character in a way that we, as an audience, whether he becomes good, whether he stays evil, can be fearful of his character going into the future. Like, will Goku and Vegeta and Beerus and everyone else be scared of approaching this character after everything that he did in this movie, despite them being Saiyans and wanting a big fight at any given point in their life? Is Broly going to come down and literally destroy everyone in his path to the point where maybe we shouldn't mess with him? And him just simply being in the universe sets up a completely new restructuring of the multiverse and what we could get for any given story, or what Earth might even do in a new anime, new manga, new movie series, or something else like that. So, before we started talking here, and I promised at the beginning of this video, I want you now, if you will, you could say whatever you want about what I just said, but please tell everybody your pitch for that cliffhanger ending that we were talking about, because it blew my freaking mind, guys.
So, before I get to that, a little bit more of a cliffhanger from me. I'm going to say something about what you said about, Resurrection of F compared to Battle of Gods, right? What it did for the scope of Dragon Ball. There is this trend, and I want to say it was Anime AJ who first said it in a video form or a live stream form, and I've rolled with it since, because it is just so smart. They constantly do a back and forth of widening the scope and then closing the scope of the Dragon Ball universe. Battle of Gods widened the scope to the god hierarchies. Resurrection F, back to Frieza. Universe 6 tournament. New universe that we have. New Saiyans, new hit assassin, high tier of a universe, a new god of destruction, a new angel. Widen the scope. Close it back down. We're back to future Trunks. Widen it again to the universe survival arc, right? And now we're closing back down again to Broly. And yes, you're right. Z did do a similar thing, but I think
Z did, yeah.
But
they went to Namek, and then they also went to. Then they kind of came back to the Red Ribbon Army and Cell, and then they went to Boo and the gods.
But they at least started with the Saiyans, which was a huge expansion of the universe.
Of course,
they only had one contraction, but this actually is a pattern right now, especially with Broly now. Broly bringing it back into the Dragon Ball scope that we know from the 90s. It keeps expanding and then contracting our ideas of what Dragon Ball is. So to subvert our expectations from that, they have to end with some sort of cliffhanger, something that's not like the 90s Dragon Ball movies where, it just ends with a happy ending. And it could, like you said, end with well, that happened, so it's whatever now, on to the next thing, right? But it's still a cliffhanger in regards, and I guess this is where I get into it. So, in the trailer, a keen observer, it wasn't me who first discovered this, but whoever it was, props to you, who discovered that Frieza actually walks out of the ship before Broly and Paragus on Earth, in the ice place. You could barely see it. It's a long shot from eagle eye view, but you could see him just barely there in front of them, which means that we're potentially leading Broly and Paragus to Earth. Frieza is for some reason, potentially for the Dragon Balls or whatever, and potentially, as you said beforehand, to revive the Saiyans, a good sounding wish, under the guise that Beerus destroyed planet Vegeta, not Frieza. Not that Beerus ordered it, but that Frieza said Beerus just did it. So now there's a hate between, Broly, Paragus, and Beerus, and there's a reason to revive the Saiyans for not only Broly and Paragus, but also for Frieza. But then, later in the movie, or at some point, when their motives are discovered, when their reasons are discovered, Vegeta and Goku are like, Frieza destroyed planet Vegeta, regardless of the orders, right? Frieza may say, but he ordered me to, but it doesn't matter at that point. You actually pulled the trigger. And that may cause the fight that we see in that fiery pit between Broly and Frieza. Remember, that fiery pit is a similar place to where Bulma is also seen in the trailer. Bulma collecting the Dragon Balls on Earth. So this fight with Frieza isn't happening at the beginning of the movie, like it seems to make out in the trailer. It's most likely happening at the end of the movie. Frieza gets defeated by Broly. Broly being this God of Destruction tier character, as we got from recent interviews, Frieza still can't handle Beerus. I don't care what anybody says. It doesn't seem like he can. But Frieza gets pounded into the dirt. Maybe he dies, maybe he doesn't. They might not want to kill their second cash cow. But you have Broly then say, I'm leaving. I'm taking Frieza's army. It's my army now. And I'm going to do what I want. And you can't stop me. You can't stop me. Beerus can't stop me. And the angel guy can't intervene. So I'm going to just go off and do me. And that's the end. And that's the end.
I have to say, Matt, I absolutely love this idea. Seriously, everyone who's listening, when he pitched this idea to me, I just was awestruck for a couple of minutes. I was like, wow, like it just makes so much sense. One of the things that kind of bugged me at the end of the Tournament of Power was, yes, Frieza's back. And yes, we can interpret the idea that Frieza learned his lesson. He's not going to go to Earth anymore or whatnot. But as you said, it's starting to look more and more like he hasn't learned his lesson at all.
No, he goes straight to Earth.
The Tournament of Power.
He goes straight to Earth.
He goes straight to Earth. This movie's not taking place very long after the Tournament of Power, as you pointed out in one of your recent videos. So
Toriyama said himself, it's a breath after the Tournament of Power. We take a breath and then we're here. And an episode after, he said too. So figure a day, a couple weeks at most. It's not very long.
So he's going back. He's just he's a glutton for punishment. And like how many times has this guy gone to Earth just to get destroyed by a Saiyan?
But this time I trained for 10 minutes. Now I am more powerful than the Omni King.
Exactly. Well, with his potential, unless they just completely rewrite that. But really, him bringing these Saiyans, him understanding the potential and tricking them into thinking that, yeah, their grudges lied with Beerus, and Beerus is aligned with these other Saiyans, especially King Vegeta, or King Vegeta's son, Prince Vegeta. Like, there's a lot of drama to be had there, just mellow space opera drama that they've been promoting the last couple of weeks. So I love that idea. I love the idea of Frieza just taking one for the team. Like, Broly just goes after him. Broly fights Goku, maybe Goku, Vegeta, and Frieza, takes them out, and then just simply goes, you know what? No one can step up to me. Not even Beerus can step up to me. I'm leaving.
We have another proof, too. I just realized that in a recent, I think it was Weekly Shonen Jump article, they said that, if you're expecting Goku to win, people who are expecting Goku to win will be in for a surprise.
Exactly. And so
they're like hyping up that Broly won't lose.
But Broly not losing and taking over the Frieza Force, especially when you're reintroducing characters from the Frieza Force who are tied to King Cold and have that legacy that they've been there for a long time, and they'll just switch sides at the end of the movie because Frieza's shown himself to be inferior to this Saiyan who wants to take over. And then you have Broly, who might have been raised with Paragus, who understands Saiyan mythology, Saiyan history, and taught Broly to appreciate it. But then he sees that Vegeta's kind of given up on it entirely, and Paragus is dead, and everything they thought about Frieza and the Frieza Force is completely null and void as well, because they didn't know Frieza blew up Planet Vegeta or anything else like that. Him just being like, I don't want to bring back the Saiyans. I don't want to do anything. I don't have my pride for a Saiyan. I lost the only Saiyan I ever loved. I'll just do my own thing and no one can stop me. That really, I think, resets the boundaries of Dragon Ball Super, because you have Goku and Vegeta, unlike where the show ended, in a situation where they cannot easily take out the main antagonist of the series that will come back in another movie or another anime series or the manga or whatever they decide to continue Dragon Ball with. That, to me, is an interesting idea. And like you said, they're not going to get rid of their cash cow. Broly is a cash cow. It would be like malfeasance for them, like corporate malfeasance, to simply kill off his character at this point. The fan base loves him. They need to figure out a way to keep him around, and whether or not he becomes good in the future is null and void at this point. We need him to be an antagonist for the future and someone that Goku and Vegeta can't simply beat.
Yeah, and I think we should let people know how big of a cash cow he is, because I don't think people understand it. They're like, oh, but Frieza's also a cash cow, right? And they milk him all the time. Frieza's movie, Resurrection of F, right? Its pre-order ticket sales got beaten by Broly already by 300%.
They're not going to kill off this character. He's way too important to the franchise, and they know it. And that's why this is the perfect ending. It's the perfect ending. He simply gives up. Not because he's destroyed the earth, not because he's done anything great or
not because
spectacular.
He's good.
But just because I'm bored. I mean, that's not something that we see, or not really something we see from Saiyans all the time, but we saw it from Goku. I mean, Goku did the same thing to Vegeta. He's like, I'm bored. Gohan did it too. He's like, I'm bored. At the same point, he's just trying to make him suffer. He wasn't really trying to do anything. Even Goku going Super Saiyan 3 against Boo was like, I could have beat him, but I decided not to. Like, this is something we've seen before, and it would be really interesting to see a Broly who has his wits about him, or kind of in the same way that Kale did, understand the world around her, or evolve away from the Berserker's legendary Super Saiyan form and realize that she can control this power and actually perceive the world around her because she's a full-blooded Saiyan, the same way that Vegeta could conquer his Ozaru form. Like, he just simply conquers it, and he's like, you know what? I have this power. I can bring it out whenever. You guys can't touch me. I'm leaving. That would be crazy. And also give Goku something to strive for. Like, this is my next main challenge, and we're going to see this guy sometime in the near future. That'd be great.
Mm-hmm. Especially since Goku, as they said, is reaching that tier of God of Destruction. His main goal, Beerus, is within sight now. And this is, by the way, in Super Saiyan Blue, because he can't use Ultra Instinct. So these interviews are referring to Blue Goku is getting very close to Beerus, which would probably mean Kaioken Goku gets above. And you're just sort of closing that gap. Beerus has been ahead of Goku longer than I think any character in the series has been ahead of Goku. So good for him. But, seriously, think about it. No one stays ahead of Goku for very long. So having this threshold be overcome, and then at the same point, having a new, idol, a new thing to chase come up and go into the stars. He could come back at any time.
Mm-hmm. What the real question I have, though, I love that a lot. I wanted that to happen. It's something that they could focus on in a new movie, a series, anything, but they don't have to, like you just said. They can bring it back whenever they want, and Broly can just be the thing that gets people's interest again a year or two down the line, even though they're focusing on new and original characters, and that's just something they have in their back pocket.
Killing Frieza to revive him, to kill him to revive him. That's what they did with Frieza. Just think about, instead, Frieza just goes, haha, Saiyan, I am too strong for you. I will fly off into the stars and get my immortality off planet Namek. It's like, he goes, and that's it. And no, he can't do that, because then he'll actually get immortality, right? So we have to kill Frieza every time to revive him every time. But Broly, if he doesn't care, if he thinks he's invincible anyway, then you've got a whole character to work with.
you have a character who doesn't care about immortality. You have a
Yep.
character who doesn't care about bringing anything back with the Dragon Balls. Doesn't care about the MacGuffin. He's stronger than the MacGuffin. Like,
Yeah.
it
A future
it's,
plot point could be him coming back to say, wait a second, I could revive Paragus. And, like, I think we mentioned this. He loves Paragus in this version.
Yeah.
Paragus and him have a good relationship, and I think that's the way it should be, and should have been in the Broly movie originally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of course.
they have a good relationship here, so potentially that's the future plot point. He's like, listen, I want him back. I thought I was done with everything. I thought that rage consumed me, but I want him back. And if you don't give that to me, I will kill you. And you're gonna be like, we're not gonna give it to you, and that's the next conflict. And you see how you guys can see how it writes itself. It literally just goes on its own.
Or even, Toriyama's the one. You take the whole dynamic of him bringing back Paragus or wanting to bring back Paragus, but you take the fact that Toriyama's the one helping write this or going to be shepherding this story going forward, and the fact that he helped write Dragon Ball Online when we got to see Toa and Mira go to Planet Namek and actually destroy it in their own hubris. Like, maybe he goes to Planet Namek and destroys it because they're not going to help him. I mean, like, obviously, even though I like the idea of Broly being subtle. Like, I don't like him just being completely rage machine, coked out, only can say one word in his entire vocabulary, that type of Broly that we knew from the original movies. But just the type, just the guy who, like, okay, he has a head on his shoulders. Paragus raised him right, and he's smart, but he has these powers that kind of get above him, at least the first time he fights Goku and Vegeta and Frieza and everything like that, but he finds a way to actually control it. The same way Kale does, the same way Goku and Vegeta and everyone does when they're Saiyan heritage and power. And he's like, okay, with my control of this power, I can do whatever I want, but he still gets emotional because he's emotional. I mean, like, especially if he's going to bring back his father at some point, he just ends up blowing up Planet Namek at some point in the next movie or something.
He can't speak Namekian, so, you know what I mean? It's not like he's going to get his wish.
Yeah, exactly. He can't do that. They have to help him. He might be smart enough to know that, but he ends up blowing it up anyway. And then you have the Dragon Balls on Earth can't do much, and then you kind of negate the whole Dragon Balls a MacGuffin thing, and you only have the Super Dragon Balls, and you have him go after the Super Dragon Balls or something. There's a lot of really big, ridiculous things they could do for any potential next step in the story with Broly if they didn't want to kill him off. But they can also put him in their back pocket and serve him in a different way sometime in the future whenever they need him without killing him off. That to me is a really awesome idea. But another question, as much as I do like that one, I wanted to get your thoughts and opinions. Like, if they do kill him off,
yeah,
just, what they can, we don't know. Mm-hmm. But if they do figure out a way to go the old Dragon Ball Z movie route, end up killing Broly off, what do you think they're going to do? I mean, what would be the cliffhanger ending there? Would they tease another villain? Would they tease Frieza coming back at some point? Would they tease something else? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Ooh, what would be the cliffhanger there? Yeah, you'd have to have you'd have to probably really expand upon one of the tiniest quotes from the recent interview, and that's like, is Frieza thinking about challenging the Omni King? Right? You'd have to really take that quote, and I think you'd have to expand it a mile, and that would be your cliffhanger. Like, that's what Frieza wants. Frieza doesn't want anything else. Maybe Frieza actually comes to Earth to get the button off of Goku, so he can go to Zeno. Right?
Or Zeno can come to him.
Or Zeno could come to him, right? So, if that's the route they're going, to set up Frieza and the Omni King and the takeover, then perhaps that could work, I tell everybody this because it's one of my favorite things Herms has ever tweeted, right? Herms, the great translator for the Dragon Ball community. He's literally, go follow him at Herms98 if you want Dragon Ball news the minute it drops in Japan, translated into English. He's honestly such a great guy. And he loves Doctor Who like I do, so that's cool too. And he wrote that, this doesn't make sense anymore, but could still, if Frieza makes a different wish. Frieza wins the tournament power, wishes to be the Omni King, gets turned into an exact clone of the Omni King, and now there's 3 of them.
I love that. I
believed for so long that would be the real ending of the Tournament of Power. Because I was like, oh, well, the Universe 6 tournament introduced one Zeno. the future Trunks arc introduced another Zeno, and that sounds just like Toriyama to introduce a third one in the third arc.
Yeah, I really love that
I
theory myself.
love it so much, and it feels like such a minor stipulation in the wish, right? That makes perfect sense. You still got your wish granted, but now there's 3 of them, and it's just great. And that could be a cliffhanger, because now, they like say, hey, you know what? You know what we like? We like tournaments. and then we get another tournament. Because also, another thing that Dragon Ball Super did was go back to the original Dragon Ball formula of have a tournament every other arc. Just about. Other than Battle of Gods and Resurrection F, which were movie retellings. But if you don't really count those, if you count those as one sort of bubble of movie retellings, then you have a tournament, then you have another arc, then you have a tournament, which is very original Dragon Ball of them.
I think, I don't know what they would do if they ended up killing off Broly. Obviously, I think everyone's quite well aware that Paragus isn't getting out of this movie scot-free. I mean, he's just going to die.
I think he's going to die, yeah.
Yeah, of course. He's the first person on the chopping block outside of a couple of Frieza soldiers. But I think when we look at the idea that they might kill off Broly, they still have Frieza. Obviously, they can do whatever they want with him. If they're going to play off Frieza is going to be fighting alongside Goku and Vegeta, I like the idea of them focusing on Frieza's like, yeah, Frieza's still a bad guy, and he still wants to take over the Omni King. That's why my biggest fan theory right now is that he's going to be working with Paragus and Broly in order to wish back Planet Vegeta, because, quote unquote, my thought is like he was tricked by Beerus into thinking that they're scary.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball, like Super Saiyan gods, Super Saiyans, and whatnot, like everything Beerus was afraid of or talking about and incoherent thoughts and everything around the same time he went to bed is like, okay, I need to do this because these guys are going to rise up against me. When he's like, okay, I've seen everything in the Tournament of Power and everything Goku and Vegeta can do. These guys can be harnessed. I can use them as my lapdogs, and that will be the way that I take over the multiverse. Because it's not just having Goku and Vegeta, it's taking a race full of Gokus and Vegetas and using them for my advantage. Like this is my army. It's not my army of people with like power levels of 1,000 that Krillin can take out masses of.
And
like,
love it or hate it, since Dragon Ball Minus seems like it's going to be canon with this movie, right? I may not like Minus, but if we have to accept it, we have to accept it. It does say in that Frieza, when he waits the 1 month to destroy the Saiyans, right? That's the time period, by the way, guys, that Broly and Paragus could actually escape from Planet Vegeta or not be on the planet. Because Frieza says, I'm only waiting a month, all right? I don't care if they're all back or not. I'm blowing up the planet in a month. That's my patience. He also says he's doing it because he fears the Super Saiyan and the Super Saiyan God. So if it's Beerus's prolific dream somehow leaked to him, you know what I mean? Like, that's how the order got to him. Like, listen, there's gonna be a Super Saiyan God one day. I might want to fight him. I might not, because I might die. So just blow it up. You're allowed.
Yeah, like that to me is something that makes a whole lot of sense. And plus, it would also be cool to like loop that around to Broly. Like, Broly might have fought Beerus when Beerus was actually there in Planet Vegeta. We're not sure where the timeline fits up. We're not sure how old Broly is, but maybe if he's older than Vegeta, he was serving on the Saiyan Elites or something. He could have fought Broly. He could have fought Beerus when Beerus came to Planet Vegeta, when he said in Battle of Gods, like, hey, I've never known a Saiyan to be prideful. It's like, what? Like, didn't you know them? Didn't you go to Planet Vegeta and see Planet Vegeta and
King Vegeta? Yeah,
like they were groveling under your feet. What if Broly was so prideful about being a Saiyan because of Paragus and everything else that he lashed out in a very emotional way and turned into his false Super Saiyan with the yellow eyes or something and actually gave Beerus a fight? That's what actually made Beerus ask the Oracle Fish or something. He's like, hey, this is Super Saiyan God. You'll fight this. It'll be your heir apparent, your match. And then he told Frieza about it and everything you just said. So there's a lot that they could do to rope in a lot of the mythology they've already thrown our way. But I'm not sure they're actually going to do that. It's just an interesting idea that if Frieza... whole thought here is I'm going to bring them back because I can use them as my army and take over the multiverse with the Saiyans. That's a really good idea. And it's so different from everything that he's doing. But you have Frieza do that. Obviously, they figure it out. He kills Paragus, or Paragus dies. That makes Broly super angry, fights Frieza. But anyway, Goku and Vegeta and Frieza actually pull out a win and end up killing him with a triple Kamehameha wave or something. I don't know. But he ends up dying. I don't know what the setup for the future is for Dragon Ball, if not just simply hinting that we're super close to the ending of Dragon Ball Z and it's time to train Oob, or Goku wants a brand new challenge or something else like that. I mean, they could, if they wanted to, figure out a way to introduce Cooler or Janemba or Bojack if they're going to keep reintroducing old characters, but at least in my opinion, your idea of, okay, make Broly win, make him stronger than everyone else around them by a lot, and have him just go off and do his own thing to the point where Whis can't even get involved, and he shouldn't get involved, and Broly just simply rules over the universe in a way that Frieza did at the beginning of Z. Everyone's afraid of him, and no one knows how to approach the situation, and when we come back to Dragon Ball Super or in the new movie or anything else like that, that's still lingering over everyone's head. Like, this happened. That would be awesome.
And maybe, Whis reports it to Daddy Daishinkan. It's like, what do I do about this? My God of Destruction isn't really fit to do the job anymore.
and seriously, like, what happens then?
Yeah.
Do they
replace him, or like?
Yeah, they replace?
Does he train
Beerus
again? Because that'd be even cooler. If Beerus starts training again because someone's stronger than him and Goku got UI once.
But even still,
that's also that's another thing though. It establishes more of the universe, right? Whis is like, I'll have to take away your title, Beerus, because you're not the strongest in the universe anymore. And Beerus will be like, give me like a year to train first, and then we'll see, right?
And then that's where we come into the next movie.
Yeah,
when Beerus just jacked.
Beerus looked jacked in one of the recent leaked screenshots from the movie, actually. My guy's been hitting the curls. Dude's got like a 500-pound bench, you know what I mean? He's squatting 700. Dude,
probably a little bit more than that. 500 tons.
Yeah. Dude's been drinking that whey protein milkshake. He's been, I just went to the gym today, if you guys can't tell.
So, that's the thing, though. Like, I really want them to just allow Broly to be the one who wins and leaves on his own accord. But if they don't, I will just put this out there. I did a video on it on my channel, so I won't go into a huge amount of detail, but I would like for them to reintroduce Cooler or Janemba. I think that those two characters would stir up the pot a lot more. And I wouldn't have said Cooler if the whole realization that Broly's coming back didn't stir up a need, or at least a want in the fandom that I've seen over the last couple of weeks, that really indicated that people like Cooler and people want Cooler to come into the canon. I don't know why either. I mean, we've seen so much Frieza race characters in the last couple of years. I mean, Frieza's come back a lot. Frost has been there, kind of in the same place that Cooler might have been. But Cooler's still very popular in the fandom.
For some reason, yeah. Even though I don't think people realize that most Dragon Ball movies are just arc retellings.
Well, yeah, of course. But
like with changed characters and minor details, but you know what I mean? Like, Turles is just the Saiyan invasion again. Slug is just Piccolo Daimao. You know what I mean? Cooler is just Frieza, almost frame for frame. Janemba is basically whatchamacallit? Boo, yeah.
Boo, yeah.
Oh god, what's his name?
Super Android 13
is the android.
Broly Cell.
No. You know who Cell is? What's his name? Bojack.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Bojack is 100% Cell. It's even got the Super Saiyan 2 scene and everything, and Goku coming to help the son.
Cell, Broly must be like imperfect Cell. Like, everyone's a Super Saiyan fighting this guy who can take them on. Like,
I think Broly's one of the few original concepts they've had. Harudagon is another one that's like one of the few original movies they've had. Some of the sequels, like cooler sequels, are is an original concept, right? It's a play on it, but
you know what I would do? You know what I would do actually? Yeah, throw out everything I said about like having a cliffhanger or something that sets up something in the future of Dragon Ball after this after this movie.
You know what, guys? Throw out this video.
No. Like everything after, like if
Yeah.
if Broly has to die, if they're going to do that, if they're going to play it like an old school Dragon Ball movie, what I would do, like literally no joke, I would end the movie, even like a mid-credit stinger. You have Tapion come out of nowhere. You know, he just kind of lands in Universe 7, and you have a semblance that it is Universe 7, whether it's Planet Namek or Planet Earth or something else like that. But he's back on Earth, or just completely, this is the new canon version of this character, the same way Broly was. And you're like, what is going on? And this is just the like thought or the announcement that Dragon Ball Super is coming back.
I do love the idea of a mid-credits, end-credits scene instead of just a cliffhanger like we've been saying that's based off of what's actually happening in the movie, but it's sort of almost a Marvel thing where it sort of, leaves the movie and sort of goes into the expanded universe. Like imagine we went to Planet Sadala and we see like, Kaba, Caulifla, Kale all on the floor beaten up, almost dead. Somebody's holding King Vegeta, or maybe maybe Jiren's evil doer, the one who gave him so much trouble. We see something about that, hinted, and Jiren's like, you've come back. I'm still not strong enough. And then that's it. And then, we get like a glimpse of the eye or something, that's it.
Carthu, that was Broly, so
that was
getting
Broly.
that in
No,
the
that
movie,
was Goku
so.
Black. Because they both had that same flame effect.
That's right. That's
a director's choice means that they're the same character. Remember that.
Well, like a trope in the series. I mean, that's the way they deal with all of those flashbacks, mysterious people. So like, it's just a way for them not being able to animate like a new character. They want to leave that up to future ideas. Like they're not sure they're going to use it.
Ever since they messed up on Vegeta and Nappa's outfits, they've just started using vague fire to animate their villains before they get the official colors.
It's exactly what it is. But no, like I like the idea of them ending this movie and just hinting at something to come, even especially if it's completely unrelated to Goku and Vegeta in Universe 7 or
I like that too, actually. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and one of the reasons
again,
I like
expanding the universe.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I like them bringing in Tapion from like a canon idea is that this guy can be from any universe. I mean, if you wanted to show him as some kind of a time traveler or something, if that's the way you want to rewrite that character, then it allows Dragon Ball Super, whatever the future incarnation of the series actually is, to rope in the whole future Trunks arc and make that story make sense. Because one of the things I've always harped on is that story makes no sense and is not connected to anything else in the entire series. Like, everything else is slightly connected if you really think about it, with Beerus showing up, Frieza showing up and showing that he got as strong as he had to be, Champa showing up, introducing the Super Dragon Balls, Zeno showing up, and then you jump all the way to the Tournament of Power, bringing back Frieza, Super Dragon Balls, Multiverse, all this other stuff that they brought up in all those other arcs. But then Trunks comes back, and there's all of this, it's taboo to go back into the future and everything, yada, 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 and the time rings. And they just kind of sweep that under the rug, and it doesn't really affect anything in the entirety of the series. But let's explore that a little bit more. Let's explore where those time rings came from, because it was made very clear in the manga, at least, that it wasn't all Trunks who made those time rings, and there's people from other universes who have done that. So what if it is Tapion? Like, what if they can explore that character in those situations a little bit more? That would be a great cliffhanger too. That could happen literally with the same cliffhanger ending of Broly just giving up, taking over Frieza Force, and leaving. I mean, because it's like a mid-credit stinger, it would be both. Epic.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think about it, it's on release at home now, so I could talk about it. Infinity War, I'm not going to spoil anything, I'm just saying, in case anybody gets everybody gets crazy about a movie that made $2 billion. Wow, Yeah, I mean,
We're
you
gonna-
probably saw it.
We're gonna spoil it. We're gonna
Yeah.
spoil it. Just
The end credit scene, and the end scene are both in essence cliffhangers. They are both getting you ready for the next movie in different ways. One's getting you ready for a different next movie than the other in a weird way too, using the present to get you ready for a prequel, which is a nice touch. I don't want to go too far into spoilers, just in case, because I want people to still watch this, of course. But, and the real ending, right? The real ending before the credits roll gets you prepared for the next Avengers movie, which, has to happen. So these two things are both cliffhangers in their own right, but aren't the same cliffhanger or the same type. So you could have it in the same movie, especially a large franchise and universe like Dragon Ball.
And as we've already discussed, like whenever they bring back Broly, if they're going to do that, they don't have to do it at the very next arc. Yes, This guy is still a threat, but he's out there and he's keeping to himself. Like,
well, to be fair, if Frieza teaches us anything, they do apparently have to bring him back the next arc that they just revived.
Exactly.
God, no! I think they'll learn from that. Yeah, I think this. Just a transit. Frieza's like a MacGuffin to get Broly there. I think.
Yeah,
it's like the connection.
Yeah, and I agree with you there, and I think they bring him back later, whether he wants to be roped into a new time traveling story that's multiverse related. I mean, I think that would be interesting. Like, that would be a cool story, in my opinion, is multiverse time travel. Like, roping in all of the mythology and all of the history and world building that Dragon Ball Super gave us into one cohesive story where you have everyone that we kind of came to come and love. Go to Universe 6, look for the Super Dragon Balls in Universe 6 and 7, maybe even reintroduce Universe 11, where Jiren has to deal with whoever or whatever, and somebody from another universe comes back in time or forward in time when they really shouldn't be there in order to save or protect something or whatever. I mean, like, there's just so much possibility there in a new and interesting way where Broly can survive but come back later, or maybe even get tied up into the story, and that's what creates like a good guy Broly eventually.
Yeah,
because
maybe
that's a whole nother, I mean, like, we've been talking for like 40 minutes. That's a whole nother discussion of whether or not Broly is going to be a good guy in the future. But
and if we want him to be too, I think that's a big question.
Of course. But any closing words on the whole concept of this movie ending with a cliffhanger and not simply being a happy-go-lucky, everything's going to be okay in the end movie ending that mostly all Dragon Ball movies give to us?
I think, based on Toriyama's comments, he knows that the series will continue in some capacity in the future, based on him saying, it's off the air for now, type things. So there's probably some behind-the-scenes knowledge, very deep into Toei, of the series continuing potentially in 2019 or 2020. They're going to want to hype up that series, movie, manga, whatever it may be, as quickly as possible. Keep the money train going, because the more hype you have, the more figures you still sell. So they're going to want to do that as best as possible. There's no better way to keep hype going, as Marvel shows us, as we said earlier, with cliffhangers and mid-credits cliffhangers as well, or both. So this seems like a natural thing from a monetary perspective to do. And then you just think about the general idea of keeping a character around, right? Expanding plot lines, making further scope of the universes and, the general Dragon Ball fictional universe as a whole. You really come down to the only logical conclusion, which is this is going to end in some sort of cliffhanger. And it needs to help rejuvenate and continue the rejuvenation of this franchise.
I agree. And I really agree because, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, as much as it didn't and it did have a happy-go-lucky ending, Battle of Gods was really, I think, the movie that ended with somewhat of a cliffhanger. Not in an overt way, like not, oh my gosh, like Frieza's alive or Broly is back into the fray or something like that. There wasn't something so obvious, but it opened up the door enough to give a lot of the fans, like, it rejuvenated a lot of things. Like, oh my gosh, like, are we going to get more movies? Are we going to get a new series or something? And obviously both those things actually did end up happening. So this movie needs to do the same thing, because Fukatsu no F kind of came in and sold Frieza very heavily, but it wasn't anything that fell in line. It didn't really expand the universe in a really big way. It didn't set up anything after that story that would have been interesting to explore. It felt like a very classic Dragon Ball movie, and I hope that they figured at some point that was the wrong decision. That movie was very successful in its time, but after everything that they've learned that Dragon Ball is and how big this franchise is worldwide and how many people are still nostalgic and very excited for it, they know that because the anime is now ended, the manga is wrapping up with the Tournament of Power sometime in the next couple months, this franchise needs something to jump off on, and Broly's the best way to reintroduce it, and it's the best way to keep it going, and the cliffhanger ending is going to be the best idea, whether it's the end of the movie or at the end of the credits and something that sets up a new movie or anything else in the future.
Yeah, I could be wrong with the number, and this year alone, Dragon Ball as a brand has made, I think, 97 billion yen.
And that's
crazy.
Absolutely crazy. That's
And
crazy. That's
to
more
the
than
moon.
anything.
Yeah, it's more than One Piece, by the way, guys. And
It's Gundam.
Yeah.
It's more than Gundam.
And if you think about last year, 2017, their prediction for what Dragon Ball would make them over at Toei and Shueisha was 20 billion yen short of what it actually made. Imagine being 20 billion of anything off. Right? Think of that for a second.
Well, to be fair, just to be clear, and I don't have the translation of like what that actually means to US dollars to give the listeners.
It's still a lot, regardless of
It's still a ton of money, but it's not. We're not talking about billion.
We're in the millions.
We're talking. Yeah, of course. You're not talking about billions, but we're in the millions, and it's ridiculous. And
even compared
the franchise.
to TV shows, that's crazy number, guys. That's millions. I think it's nearly 100 million. I think think that's how it works out, or it's 900 million. I can't remember how the conversion works. 97 billion, I think, should be 900 million, 970 million, right? So nearly a billion, right?
Yeah.
Think about, the top grossing movies of all time, the biggest pictures, you know what I mean? And this is an anime in Japan at, one of the most renowned animation studios in the world, despite what people think. And it's making that much dough. It's doing crazy, guys. This franchise, they want to keep that train rolling.
It's not even that. It's a franchise that's been going on for like pretty much consistently.
Yeah.
Wall to wall for 30 years.
Yep. It only had like a death at like the early 2000s, I think, and it got rejuvenated by, I think, Budokai games. I think that's what's contributed to it the biggest.
Well, with Dragon Ball, I mean, obviously they had the manga and the anime and all this stuff, but the video games are what really kept it alive. Yes, the Budokai games came and gave it renewed life, but you have a property that became world renowned, ended its a main run like manga and anime in 2000 or 1996, but then it became like a US property and all these other things worldwide. I mean, literally, there's been some incarnation of Dragon Ball in popular culture for the last 30 years, and very few properties can state that. I mean, very few. Yeah. So, no,
you can probably list them yourself. You know what I mean? Like, if you're at home, list them.
But it's crazy. It would be ridiculous for them to allow this movie to be ending in any way other than a major cliffhanger where we're setting up Broly coming back in the future or something much bigger down the line that ropes in a lot of the story elements that they gave us throughout Dragon Ball Super, or just a completely new element or character or something that's going to be a main focus in a new movie or anime or manga or anything down the line, heck, even a video game. So with that being said, man, I want to thank you for coming and talking for this extended period of time about this topic.
A real podcast type deal now.
It really is, and I hope everyone who's gotten this far has really appreciated and enjoyed the content. I had a whole lot of fun talking about this, and I'm sure you guys want to go down and comment about this in the comment section below. We're going to be there listening and reading all your responses, so make sure to do that as well. Go down to the description section. I'm going to leave
like a meme comment, guys, and you got to like it. Get me to the top.
Yeah. Guys, go down to the description section below, hit that link, and go subscribe to Carthu's dojo. I was just telling him before we actually started recording that, I go around a lot in this community and other communities, and I see even people like myself, as much as I have to do in life and I try to put out content as much as I can, I realize that a lot of my things can be podcast and one picture style, like just a discussion along with myself or another person. And there isn't a whole lot of effort put into creation of the video or the visual component. Carthu is completely different. The guy puts a lot of effort into everything that he puts out there, and it's definitely stuff that you don't want to miss. So please make sure to go check him out if you haven't already, especially if you've gotten this far and you've liked what he's had to say and his thoughts and opinions and theories about what Dragon Ball Super could be or this movie. So hope that gives you some incentive to do that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload on my channel. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. It's been real.